We moved on to Kali Sulph now in this cell salt series, with just the basic indications and functions of how we can apply these salts in our daily lives. And Kali Sulph is an interesting one, and like they all are, and it has a very strong affinity with iron in terms of taking up oxygen into the cells. And probably one of the key things, if anything, you can take home out of this salt is that it's used for the third stage of infection. So when a cold's progressed from what in Chinese medicine they call wind cold to wind heat, when it's progressed to that wind heat stage, Kali Sulph is indicated. What that means is cold, from the wind cold phase, the Kali Mer phase and the iron phase is when the phlegm's clear. And now when it's progressed to the third stage, the phlegm's going to be yellow, greenish. And you can get green discharges. So this is when that salt is indicated. It's usually the antibiotic stage, right? If, people like taking that medicine, but not many people do anymore. So this is a great substitute for this. And on a psychological level, this salt is very much indicated for people who are irritable or constantly irritable. In China, and this in relation to Chinese medicine, can be liver qi stagnation, when people feel like they can't stand being in heated rooms, or they always have to have a window open. In extreme cases, on a psych level, they can feel very claustrophobic and fuzzy in the head. It's another remedy in terms of brain fog as well. But it has a specific affinity for skin, dandruff, scaling scalps, psoriasis, poor hair quality, oily skin, very oily scalps. This salt is indicated. And so any kind of thick pussy discharge can be indicated with this, and as well as in affinity with calc sulph, which we'll talk about later on. But always there can be, from a tongue diagnosis point of view, there can be a slimy yellow coating over the tongue, and especially at the back of the tongue, which is phlegm heat in Chinese medicine, or dampness. We can also have the sinusitis infections as one of the key ones for this salt, especially the thick yellow putrid discharge. And if there's smell combined with that discharge, then you definitely need to combine it with silica. Also, for chronic cystitis, urinary problems, there can be also, like I said, the psoriasis, the deep scaling skin, like dandruff on the scalp as well. Dandruff will have a smell. There's a difference between dandruff and dry skin. Some people can get the dry, flaky skin on the scalp, but dandruff will have a certain smell, an odor about it, which is not favorable. But like I said before, like one of the key complementary salts, and I'll expand on this when I talk about iron, Kali Sulph and ferrum phos complement each other in terms of it improves the integrity of the mucous membranes, especially in the respiratory tract, but it also is the oxygen carrier. Those two together, Kali Sulph is indicated for what we would call either lipomas, those phlegm, that lumps under the skin are considered phlegm in Chinese medicine. But that in affinity with iron helps carry the oxygen to the cells, to these what we'd call, you'd even use these in tumors, but I'll talk about this more so cancer when I talk about iron, which basically is deoxygenation of the cells, and then they become putrefied. And Inez Perry, in the esoteric writings on the salt, she explains it beautifully. And I'll get into that once eventually when I get into the iron. do a separate talk onto this because that's a very interesting one. But in terms of face diagnosis with Kali Sulph, we will have a brownish yellow appearance on the skin. There can be pigmentation on the skins, like white spots, blemishes on the skin. Liver spots, which come with aging. Liver spots in Chinese medicine, they tend to be a form of blood stasis. And I would say liver spots can be combined with cherry angiomas as well. Freckles. And also, it's mainly in relation to the skin. Like I was saying before, the skin, the oily skin, the slimy kind of surface on the skin. And this in conjunction, like I was talking about, I don't know if I mentioned this in the Mag-Fost one, this one can be used in conjunction with Mag-Fost to eliminate sugar cravings. When people crave sugar, it's usually a Mag-Fost deficiency, but it can also be a Kali Sulph deficiency. And in terms of the gut, people can feel have feelings a lot of pressure and fullness in the stomach, and then be indicated for bloating as well. And this salt actually is combined with silica for severe itching of the skin and particularly tinnitus. Not tinnitus, what am I saying? Not tinnitus, tinea. It's very well indicated with tinnitus, intense itching of the skin, and what we call also pruritus, which is intense itching of the anus. This salt is indicated. So these are just a few examples, and I would say you can throw in conjunctivitis with this one as well, because that's more a phlegm heat condition in children. Very, very critical. So people who feel stifled, stuffy, uncomfortable in warm rooms, claustrophobia, this salt is definitely indicated. And a strong affinity with iron, like I said before, also calc-phos as well. And we'll talk about that as I go down along the lines as a little bit further on. But this salt is the cell oxygenator with ferrum-phos and the membrane normalizer and conditioner. So we'll get into further on, then in part 2, I'll talk a little bit more deeply about the astrological correlations and the body parts and the body signs affiliated with that, and we'll get into a little bit of what Ines Perry will be talking about in terms of the salt on a deeper level.